Happy 2014 from Indianapolis, or as it's currently known, Jack Frost's sock. And since the year has finally passed, I guess it's time to do like every other critic and their cat and count down the best and worst entries in their respective field. Though for me, that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm only including albums on this list that I've actually reviewed on the show, with one small exception, but given that A, I didn't even start the Quickies series until roughly a quarter of the way into the year, and B, I nearly fucking died around the middle of it, there's no doubt going to be some significant gaps. So I guess this is more of a for whatever it's worth list, which given my most recent analytics is roughly 3/4 but I'll gladly take what I can get. At least until YouTube flags me, that is. Standard listing rules apply, those being A, this is a strictly personal list. B, if you feel differently about any of my choices, that's perfectly fine. It's only opinion, and I'll respect yours if you respect mine. And C, if you absolutely must leave hateful bullshit in the comments, at least do me the courtesy of using spell check first. We good? Good. Now, on with the bullshit!
Just a small town girl, living in a lonely world.
I really enjoyed the new AFI, but I was a bit hesitant to put them on this list given how much goddamn bootlicking I did for them during my top 10 favorites episode, so AFI takes the number 5 spot partially out of nepotism, but it isn't completely unfounded. Burials was another wonderful experiment from a band that's very skillful at playing around with their sound, though despite all the wonderful atmosphere building and thunderous performance from the rhythm section, would it have killed them to put one fucking solo in there? Just one? Or was too much focus put into maintaining Davey's most recent haircut? Remember that small exception I hinted at not 10 seconds ago? Well, here it is. I never actually got around to doing a full episode on this one. I only briefly mentioned it was shit in the Red Album episode, ironically enough, but I'm slotting it here anyway because of this. I did try to write a quickie on it. I tried listening to it several times, in fact, but every time I did, it literally put me to sleep. Seriously, it's frightening how boring this album is. I mean, I expected Alice in Chains' release to be slow and sludgy, but this was a NyQuil and warm milk cocktail with an ambient chaser. Rest in peace, Lane Stanley. Believe me, you are sorely missed.
Just a city boy, born and raised in South Detroit.
Congrats again to Trio for putting out what has to be one of the best breakup albums of the modern age. I wouldn't say it's on par with Rumors or anything, but it's on the same platform as the Hot Rock, Deja Entendu, Jagged Little Pill, and Adele's entire catalog at least. If that bitch of a girlfriend or bastard of a boyfriend left you for that slut or man-slut this year, it's nice to have something to listen to while you mourn the agonizing, crushing demise of your very soul. That, isn't Taylor Swift. Good job, boys. Looking forward to the next one. In my original review, I was fairly kind to this album. Hell, I even said I wasn't going to put it on this list. Disingenuous, moi. I originally called it unexceptional but unobjectionable, but the more I've thought about it, the more it's lingered with me. Isn't that kind of worse? I mean, plenty of albums fell straightforward into mountainous piles of flaming dog shit this year, but at least they gave us something to talk about. Fall Out Boy's latest opus is so bland and forgettable, I'm amazed I had anything to say about it. I'm not going any higher than 4 though, since it did have a few decent moments, and it seemed to please the Fall Out Boy fanbase, but for an album literally called Save Rock and Roll, the only thing it really seemed to save was Patrick Stump from another torturous shift at Denny's. Rock and roll is going to take way more effort to save than this.
Strangers waiting, up and down the boot.
If there's a common theme amongst all the albums that make the top 5 list, I'd say it's that they all surprised me in some way, and Paramore's latest certainly surprised me by being way more than I was expecting it to be. Granted, I wasn't expecting much beyond songs about hunky boys and Jesus, but they still blew me away with how much they've matured as a group. With lots of variety, color, and energy strewn throughout this release, Paramore seems to have made the transition from okay emo band to damn solid alt-pop group. To me, this is what Save Rock and Roll very well could have been. That is, if Pete Wentz wasn't so preoccupied wearing douchey hats. If you want solid pop rock, it really didn't get much better than this in 2013, so it's a must-own. Still waiting on that tweet, though. You're goddamn right I said it. Come at me. I was flabbergasted by the negative response my initial review received. Some people stated that since I hadn't listened to most of their catalog, I wasn't qualified to speak on this album. Oh, so anyone who enjoys Let It Be but hasn't listened to the other 20 plus albums in the Beatles discography should be burned at the stake as a heretic. Yeah, that makes sense. Point number 1. Any singular album that isn't part of a narrative series or larger concept had better damn well be able to stand on its own merits. I don't care who put it out. Point 2. Just for shits and giggles, I actually went back and listened to all the Strokes albums I'd missed after I read some of those lovely comments, and you know what happened? It made me think even less of this bloody shambles. All of their other albums are better than this. At least they don't get 15 minutes into their run length and switch to jerking off for the remaining 35. Point number 3, if you happen to enjoy this album and don't see what I'm going on about, then let me reiterate, that's perfectly fine. In fact, I'm sincerely glad you could find enjoyment in something that I couldn't. Everyone's personal taste is different and unique, and I don't expect everyone to agree with my opinion. But before you're tempted to spew more pointless venom into the comments, allow me to share with you a phrase that has never been uttered by anyone. Boy, I sure didn't enjoy that band's album. That is until a random stranger on the internet called me a boy, howdy, that was the epiphany I ever needed. Tell you what. Okay, that's my absolute last word on this album. Any further comments regarding Come Down Machine can be directed towards this picture of my ass that's been painted on this brick wall.
Streetlights, people, living just to find.
Yeah, frankly, I'm just as shocked as you are. I think I originally gave this album 4 Jesuses with machine guns or something when I originally reviewed it, but the more I've listened to it, the more it's grown on me. This is definitely one of the best ska punk albums to have been released not just in 2013, but in many years, and it serves as a great introductory course in Five Iron Frenzy themselves, and perhaps even ska punk in general. Its hooks are infectious, its tone is cheery and fun, and its choruses demand being sung along with between slam dances. I was pleasantly surprised at how much I loved this album, and I was pleasantly surprised that Scott Kerr didn't threaten legal action after I stated he resembled He Who Must Not Be Named. Thanks again for being a good sport, eh? Next time you're in Indy, drinks are on me. Again, this is another album I was surprisingly kind to in my initial review, but the memory of it has only gotten more sour and awful the more I've dwelt on it. Kind of like the ending to Lost. There's literally no reason for this album to exist. If you're in the market for a band that's writing new Black Flag style material, you listen to Off. If you just want to see a bunch of the guys from the original lineup do a bunch of covers, you listen to Flag. Even if all you want is Greg Ginn jerking off a guitar for an hour, you'd probably find better stuff in his solo catalog. This album is just another cynical, pointless, nostalgia-baiting cash-in, and an opportunity for Greg Ginn to act like a dick to everyone. I'd say avoid it at all costs, but it seems most of you are doing that already, so just keep at it, I suppose. Oh, and the album art sucks too. Another good reason to buy an Off album instead.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
Man, talk about better late than never. Granted, this album is still very fresh in my mind, but that's not because it was released at the tail end of the year. It's because I've been listening to it almost every single day since it came out. There's just so much this album gets right. The instrumentation is skillful and varied, the tone is thoughtful and sincere while also being playful and humorous, and Jeremy McKinnon's vocal flexibility is a sight to behold. This is one of those ever so rare specimens in music, the overhyped album that actually deserves all the hype it's receiving. If there's any rock released in the past year that deserves your time, attention, and hard-earned cash money, it's this. There's so much liveliness, power, and raw and bridled energy on this album. Unlike... While the albums that made the top 5 list this year stood out for how much they surprised me, I can summarize my thoughts on all of the bottom 5 entries with this phrase: you can do better. Seriously, all of the bands on this side of the list have put out really great albums at some point in their career. None of these bands are wholeheartedly awful, especially the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, but disappointed doesn't even begin to describe my feelings about this ugly mess. Despite what some of you may think, it gives me no pleasure to write a negative review, but I'm a critic, and when a band releases a plodding, mushy pile of uninspired dreck, it's my job to thrash it, no matter how much fun I had with a band in college. In my original review, I said that they needed to return to their roots, but judging by a lot of the articles I've read about the band, they seem to have no interest in doing that. This dodgy, lackluster, wispy nonsense is just the music they want to make now. If that's really the case, then, well, more power to them, I guess, but I certainly have no interest in listening to it. Listening to this album was like going to a gallery with one of the most artistically talented friends I knew and having to watch as they stared vacantly at a garbage can near the exit. Hey, pal, is that really all you want to look at?
Yeah, I'm good.
Are you sure? There's lots of exquisite, vibrant works of art over on this side, some of which you helped create.
Nah, that's fine. I like this better. Oh, look, a shiny penny.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that if this is what they really want, then I wish the Yeah Yeah Yeahs the best of luck in the future as they continue to roll around in garbage. Okay, that pretty much sums up my general opinions for the year. Like I said, there were lots of great and not so great albums I didn't get to touch on, but hopefully in 2014 I'll be able to be much more productive and get many more reviews out to you guys, provided my computer doesn't explode again, or that I don't catch another debilitating sickness, or that I don't get sniped from a grassy knoll by a disgruntled Strokes fan. Happy New Year!